In this video, we will dive into the movie The Equalizer 3. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie's production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide a review and share some personal reactions. Let's begin with the movie story. In Sicily, a crime lord named Lorenzo Vitale, played by Bruno Bellotta, arrives at his vineyard with his grandson and finds a slew of dead bodies laying anywhere. He goes inside alone and finds three of his men have Robert McCall, played by Denzel Washington, seated with a gun to his head. Vitale asks McCall what he is doing here, and he says he was there for something that they had taken that was not theirs. McCall gives them 9 seconds to stand down before he proceeds to kill the three goons and then leaves Vitale crawling away. He grabs a shotgun and blasts Vitale in the head. As McCall is walking away with a bag, the grandson sees him and McCall tells him to stay in the car. The boy shoots McCall in the leg and runs away. McCall drives far enough until he loses consciousness. He is found by an officer, Gio Bonacqui, who takes him to the local doctor in his town. Enzo tells to say that McCall is failed in case anybody asks. McCall wakes up after a few days and learns he is in the town of Altamto. He befriends Enzo, who finds a place for him to stay, and he also becomes friendly with Gio and his daughter Gabby. McCall starts going by the local case and also befriends one of the employees, Amina. After Enzo asks him if he is a good or bad man, McCall says he is not sure. He is haunted by images of his late friend Susan Plummer, and he remembers how he killed the men at the vineyard one by one. McCall later contacts the DIA and speaks to Emma Collins. He tips her off about what he found at the vineyard in Sicily and suggests she investigate. Collins goes with her partner Frank Conway and a team where they find 11 million euros along with a huge stash of narcotics. She later locates McCall in Altamont and starts communicating with him over what they found at the vineyard. In the market in Altamont, a thug named Marco Cantrenta is antagonizing a fish vendor named Angelo over not giving him what he wants, then demands that he have it in the next time he shows up. Marco and his brother Vincent run the Comora, a mafia group that terrorizes Altamont. Marco visits Vincent as he is meeting with a couple that refuses to sign over their building so that Vincent may run a hotel. He responds by having the wife's wheelchair-bound father thrown and hung for a window, then has his corpse left for the other residents to see as a warning. Gio gets a phone call saying that Gabby left school early, and when he asks her teacher, he says one of his officers took her. Gio runs home and finds Gabby and his wife Chiara being held captive by Marco and his goons before they proceed to threaten Gio so that he can stay out of their business. At night, McCall sees people running when they hear a bell ringing. Aguilo's shop has been set on fire and he and his wife can only be held back as they watch the shop go up in flames. McCall notices Marco and his goons sitting back watching things and he knows who to go after. Collins sees a news reports of a terrorist attack in Rome believed to be done by Syrian terrorists. Based on what she has learned from McCall, she doesn't believe this was the work of Syrians, even though it was their drugs found at the vineyard. She confides to Conway that she believes this is a part of a bigger plan. Sure enough, Vincent discusses with Marco his plans to take over the entire coast with their own businesses, and the terrorist attacks was part of the plan. Collins also ends up caught near an explosion in the city as an attempt to go near her car. She is alive and hospitalized. Marco goes to restaurants where Gio is having dinner with his family in an attempt to get him to get bars from Smallis. Marco then notices McCall staring at him and he goes to confront him. McCall lets him know clearly what will happen if he does not stop this status against the family. So he grabs Marco's wrist and compresses a nerve in his hand that causes him pain until he gets his goon out of the restaurant. Outside, Marco plans to retaliate, but one of his goons gets run over by a van as the driver has already been killed by McCall. He kills the last goon before fighting Marco, breaking his arm and getting him to stab himself to death. After Vincent learns of his brother's death, he is visited by Chief Brello, who appears to be in league with the Camaro. Brello makes threats which results in Vincent stabbing his hand and then having his goons cut Brello's hand off before sending him to the hospital to get it reattached. Vincent thus plans to get revenge. Vincent and his goons go to Altamont and attack Gio, firing a gun near his ear and threatening to kill him and his family until his brother's murder shows up. McCall comes out and tells Vincent to take him and to leave everyone else alone. Before Vincent can kill McCall, Enzo fires a rifle of his own. The residents then get their phones out and record the villain, forcing them to flee before police arrives. Vincent returns to his compound and begins to make plans to attack Altamont the next day. Unfortunately for them, McCall has found them first and begins to pick them off. Vincent wakes up when one of his goons' blood drips on him from the ceiling before the body crashes through the glass. Vincent tries to run away but ends up knocked out by McCall. When he wakes up, he finds that McCall has given him a lethal dose of the drugs found at the vineyard, giving him a few minutes before his heart gives out. Vincent attempts to run into the street with McCall slowly walking behind him and he ends up hit by a car. The crime lord stumbles a little further before he finally expires. McCall later visits the hospitals where Colin is staying. He admits to her that the real reason he came to Sicily was to retrieve pension money from someone he knew that had it stolen by the criminals. He leaves her with the bag full of money. Collins goes to Boston where the man McCall was talking about lives. He and his wife are emotional and grateful to find that their money has been recovered. When she goes back to work, Collins receives a little black book from McCall on all his personal gathering with a note saying, "Your mother would be so proud of you." Collins then looks at the photograph on her desk, revealing she is Susan's daughter. McCall stays in Altamont and joins them in celebrating the victory of their football team. Now let's talk about the biography of the main cast shortly. Denzel Washington, born December 28, 1954, Mount Vernon, New York, US, is an American actor celebrated for his engaging and powerful performances. Throughout his career, he has been regularly praised by critics, and his consistent success at the box office helped at dispel the outdated perception that African American actors could not draw mainstream white audience. Early life and education. Washington is named after his father, who was a Pentecostal minister in the Church of God in Christ, and his mother, Lisa Washington, was a beautician who owned and operated several salons. His parents divorced when he was 14 years old, and his mother sent him to a military boarding school in upstate New York for high school. Washington enrolled at Fordham University initially as a pre-med major but changed his focus to journalism before deciding to join the theater program, where he had lead role in student production of The Emperor Jones and Othello after graduating with a BA in 1977. Washington pursued further acting studies at the American Controversy Theater in San Francisco, where he stayed for a year before moving back to New York City. He had several successful stage performances in these years, most notably in A Soldier's Play, for which he shared an Obie Award for Distinguished Ensemble Performance in 1982. First year in Hollywood. Washington's first film roles were in the TV movie Wilma 1977 and Flesh and Blood 1979. His regular screen debut was in the comedy Carbon Copy 1981. He first began to receive national attention for his work as Dr. Philip Kentler on the popular television drama As T Elsewhere 1982 to 88. From the film Cry Freedom 1987, he portrayed South African activist Stephen Biko and received an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. 2 years later, he won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for his performance as a formerly enslaved man fighting in the Union Army in the American Civil War film Glory 1989. Super Stardom, Malcolm X and Training Day. Washington's astonishing skill and range as an actor and his popular appeal as a leading man are firmly established in the 1990s. He gave memorable performances in the romantic comedy Mississippi Masala 1991, the Shakespearean comedy Much Ado About Nothing 1993, alongside Tom Hanks in the cartoons drama Philadelphia 1993, the hard-boiled mystery Devil in a Blue Dress 1995 and the military thrill Crimson Tide 1995. The latter was the first of several popular movies he made with director Tony Scott. During this time he also frequently worked with director Spike Lee, starring in Amo Better Blues 1990, He Got Game 1998, and most significantly Malcolm X 1992. Portraying the civil rights activist Malcolm X, Washington gave a complex and powerful performance and earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. He received a second Best Actor nomination for his portrayal for boxer Corbin Carter in Norman Jewish The Hurricane 1919. The Training Day 2001, Washington played a corrupt and violent police detective who is assigned a young police officer, Ethan Hawke, to teach. Washington's menacing and charismatic performances earned him an Oscar for Best Actor, making him only second African-American actor. The first was Sidney Poitier to win the award. After starring in director Jonathan Demme 2004 update of 1962 thriller The Moconium Candidate, Washington redeemed with her Lee for the crime drama Inside Man 2006. He later appeared as a drug kingpin opposite Russell Crowe's determined narcos officer in American Gangster 2007 and as a dispatcher caught in the middle of subway train hijacking in Scars the Taking of film 123 2009. In 2010, Washington started in the post-apocalyptic action drama The Book of Ali and collaborated again with Scott on the action thriller Unstoppable. He subsequently portrayed a rough CIA agent in South Africa in the spy thriller Safe House 2012 before giving an Oscar-nominated performance in The Flight 2012 as a heroic airplane pilot hiding a substance abuse problem. The action comedy Two Guns, in which Washington was cast as a covert drug enforcement operative, allowed in 2013 after playing Robert McCall, a mysterious vigilante in the action thriller The Equalizer 2014. Washington appeared in The Magnificent Seven 2016, the remake of the 1960 classic western. In 2017, he started in Roman J. style, portrayed as a idealistic Los Angeles lawyer who begins to question his principles. For his performances, Washington received the 8th Oscar nomination for acting. He then reprised his role as Robert McCall in The Equalizer 2 2018. In the crime drama The Little Things 2021, he played a detective hunting a serial killer. Also in 2021, Washington started with Frances McDormand in The Tragedy of Macbeth, Joel conception of the Shakespeare's play. Washington receives an Academy Award nomination for his portrayal of the ritual character. By this time, Washington was frequently being characterized as one of the most important film actors of all time. And in 2020, the New York Times named him the greatest actor of the 21st century, with the newspaper critics A.O. Scott writing that Washington is beyond category a screen titan who is also a subtle and sensitive craftsman, with serious old-school stage training and blazing movie star presence. Additionally, Washington directed has appeared in the biographical film Antoine Fuqua 2002 about a US serviceman with a troubled past and The Great Depart 2007 with counters on the inspirational debate coach at an African American college in 1930s. He also helmed a journal for Jordan 2021, a drama based on a true story about a journalist's romantic relationship with a soldier. His stage work. In addition to his film work, Washington has continued to occasionally act on stage. He made his Broadway debut in 1980 in Ron Miller's Checkmates. In 2005, he started as Brutus in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. 5 years later, he appeared in the Broadway revival of Agatha Wilson's Fancy, a family drama set in the 1950s that explores issues of identity and racism. For his performance, Washington won a Tony Award in 2010. He later directed and starred in a film adaptation 2006 of the play, and his performances earned him an Oscar nomination. In 2018, he returned to Broadway as Hickey in Eugene Neal, the Iceman Comet. Awards and honors. In 2016, Washington received the Cecil B. DeMille Award, a Golden Globe Award for outstanding contribution to the world of entertainment. He later was awarded the U.S. President Medal of Freedom 2022 by President Joe Biden. Washington married Pauletta Person in 1983 and the couple have 4 children. Their eldest child, John David Washington, is an acclaimed actor who notably started in Black K.K. Kalsman 2018, directed by his father's old collaborator Spike Lee. The second main character is Dakota Fanning. Hannah Dakota Fanning, born February 23, 1994, is an American actress. She rose to prominence as a child actress at the age of 7 for playing the daughter of an intellectually challenged man in the drama film I Am Sam 2001, for which she received a Screen Actor Guild Award nomination, making her the youngest minds in SAG history. Fanning had further roles as a child actress in Taken 2002, Uptown Girls 2003, The Cat in the Hat 2003, Man on Fire 2004, War of the Worlds 2005, Charlotte's Web 2006, The Secret Life of Bees 2008, and the lead voice role in Coraline 2009. As an adult, Fanning went on to star in independent films such as The Runaways 2010, Now Is Good 2012, The Iphigenia 2014, and played Jane Voltry in the Twilight Saga 2009 to 2012. In 2018, she appeared in the heist comedy Ocean 8 and had a starring role in the period drama series The Alienist. She was since portrayed Spooky Fron in Quantum Tarantino film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 2019. Susan Ford is the drama series The First Lady 2022 and CIA agent in The Equalizer 3 2023. In 2024, she starred in the thriller miniseries The Perfect Couple and Replay. For the latter, Fanning was nominated for the Pre-Time Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actresses in a Limited or Anthony Series or Movies. Equalizer 3 Review. Equalizer 3 plot is that after being hardly injured, Robert McCall, played by Denzel Washington, is nursed back to health by the friendly inhabitants of a town in southern Italy. When he recovers the Sicilian mafia and terrorizing them, he does what he does best. The review of the movie. I absolutely love The Equalizer. It seems no one is making straightforward action thrills nowadays other than Antoine Fuqua, who has become the greatest master of the genre. Since the last Tony Scott, his movies are taut, efficient, and picked with gruesome R-rated action films. They know precisely what they are, and if this is the final Equalizer film, it is perfectly closes out the only big screen tendency of Denzel Washington carriers. Robert McCall is a perfect character for Denzel. After 70 years old, Washington has the right mix of righteous anger, word-wearing, and kindness to do the character justice. One thing I always loved about the franchise was how faithful it was to the concept of the original TV show, being that McCall was a man doing penance for a lifetime of violence by trying to help those in need. Granted, this helps usually involves yet more violence, but McCall always gave his adversaries a chance to do the right thing and back off, and those he kills really have it coming, making him a righteous avenger. The Equalizer 3 is leaner than the other movies in the franchise, is that this is a more focused mission than the last one saw in the first two movies. It runs only about 100 minutes compared to the other two, which over 2 hours each. The movie began with McCall massacring a fiction of the mafia because they took something that didn't belong to them. We don't actually find out what he was essentially in the first place until the end of the movie. But given that we knew about McCall from the other movies, namely that he'll do whatever it takes to help someone in need, it puts a perfect bow on the franchise. One of the best things about the series is how Washington can convey a lot about McCall's backstory with spelling it out. He is separated and worldly, but he is also a guy that genuinely likes people. He is approachable and friendly, so it makes sense that he would quickly become part of the fabric of the Italian community he finds himself recovering in. Part of the joy of Fuqua's film in watching McCall interrogate himself with a movie, taking him to embellish the friendly report he builds with a local doctor, the local constable, and a friendly bistro owner. Meanwhile, the movie also offers us a Man on Fire reunion with Dakota Fanning as a CIA analyst McCall plucks out of a menial role to give her a scope on a prominent terror-finding operation involving the mafia. Fanning and Washington Tell have great chemistry with her once again playing a pseudo-doctor figure. However, the relationship has an interesting balance now that she is an adult with her own motivations. Fuqua always done a skillful job balancing character beats and carnage in his Equalizer films, and he certainly doesn't skip on violence. Indeed, this is likely the most gruesome of the series to date, with McCall dispatching his opponents in ways that makes him almost more of a slasher than an action hero. I feel like McCall could go up against Jason or Freddy Krueger at the point and come out on top as far as gore and kill counts go. Once again, Washington McCall goes for speed and efficiency, using whatever weapon he has handy. Notably, he also rarely uses a gun. If he shoots someone, usually it's only after he's used the barrel to impale someone through their oral cavity, allowing him to use their skull as an improvised silencer. This actually happened in the movie. This is the hard R material, and it's nice to see Fuqua and Washington are still on board with making their movies as lean and mean as possible. If I have any issue with the Equalizer 3, it's that once again the movie's villain are generic. You know that a random mafioso isn't going to pose much of the threat to McCall, and it would have been great to see Denzel go up against another icon in a final battle royals. Alas, it was not to be. Even still, the Equalizer 3 delivered just as much of the bang as the other movies in the series, and is pretty kick-ass entertainment. In Sicily, an Italian drug lord and his child pull up in a jeep to a squalid villa. Strewn across the rustic countryside, which on better days would be an ideal vacation spot, are the bloodied, dismembered bodies of a goon army. The man exits the jeep with a pistol, leaving the kid in the vehicle. He and one of his henchmen enter the home, where they discover more carcasses whose causes of death, riddled with bullets, their faces cleaved by the butcher's knife, grow increasingly gruesome. Noted hitman turned ghost Robert McCall sits beneath two gunmen. In McCall the prisoner, or are they? He of course dispatches them with keys, grabbing a set of keys from the dead drug lord's body that hold what McCall comes to retrieve. You will not guess that mundane package. McCall has just murdered an army of killers to guard, but it doesn't really matter. While the has-fisted Muffisin doesn't serve the rest of the film, this opening scene from its stomach, turning violence to the real lines and operational effects indicate where this once enjoyable nuts and bolts action franchise has gone wrong. Antoine Fuqua, The Equalizer 3 is not just what many assume will be the last film in the franchise. It's the fifth overall calibration between the director and Washington. Their partnership on its face is puzzling. Sure, their first teaming Training Day netted Washington has won Best Actor win, but their successive films has only gotten harsher and dumber since that triumph. What exactly does Washington get out of these films? It's a relationship that often recalls the run Anthony Mann and Jimmy Stewart experienced in their eighth picture together. Thought to be sure, Fuqua Washington has mind for poorer thematic trailer when Stewart left his pratique bare his good guy image and Arshak mannerism to explore darker stories in month-freeing westerns. You can tell Washington gets the same player here, not caring if the audience experience the same adventurous sensation he does. Because make no mistake, the Equalizer 3 is hot garbage. It's also a fascinating but failed attempt by Fuqua and Washington to make their own Mark Stewart films. Consider how the Western genre stains this picture. During McCall's raid on the villa, he is critically wounded and eventually discovered by a local cop, Gio, who takes him to a quaint seaside Italian village where a local doctor named Enzo treats the hitman's wound while recapitulating in the restful town. McCall learns to love the people and the peace they provide him. The local young gang leader Marco looms over them. McCall, who says he is merely passing through, would rather avoid intervening. Like any Western, when push comes to shove, McCall will defend them while teaching these escaping people how to stand up to the oppressor. Fuqua and cinematographer Robert Richardson, platoon and a few good men provide further Western details through chiaroscuro lighting. Washington's Hill House spells danger, while this very frame expresses a close Washington to death. Richardson's asked to capture the actor from extreme low angles, a large on fort painting heroic compositions. The problem, however, is they have made McCall so vicious we are not quite sure if we should be rooting for him to kill. While it makes sense for the character to show greater brutality, after all, in the first Equalizer he was once a calm man idling in retirement. Now he is a man fully battered in blood and guts again. Even Washington cannot fully pull across the through line, especially when the script is so weak. Take the primary subplot which sees Dakota Fanning re-teaming with Washington. The two previously started in Man on Fire, this time as CIA agent Emma Collins. McCall phones a tip to Collins' desk that it will change her career. The information nonsensically takes her from working a call center to field work. Here are nevertheless in flat-out bad. She never proves herself to be a capable agent, and her case involving an Italian drug ring barely connects to McCall's stay in the village. Fanning appears overmatched in the few scenes that pair occupy together as she unsuccessfully attempts to channel Jessica testosterone in 0 Dark 30. I wish I could say that the action fares better, but the staging lacks imagination, the editing doesn't snap. The score sounds rote. The film would rather go gory and gruesome to paper over its limp choreography than craft anything pondering or memorable. The film's only saving grace is how many fun Washington appears to be having. He makes some surprising decisions that initially feels like outage because of how random they are. Is he still playing McCall as the grieving mentor, or does he want to push his character further toward a psychopathic territory? It's become old that and kind of lazy to compare every contemporary action film to John Wick, but this franchise, which launched the same year as the first John Wick, struggled to involve like Keanu Reeves' films did. The trilogy has no emotional core, no narrative continuum, no player with the gender it calls home. Instead, its successive offering, the Equalizer franchise, is tragically unsaved. As I arrived a couple of hours early for the first The Greatest session, I realized there was enough time to see another movie. While I waited and scratched one of the current releases off my pile of shame, there were a couple of options until I saw The Equalizer 3. From memory, I like The Equalizer 2, and I have often dreamed of living on the Italian coastline, but then I realized who the leading cast member was for this film and who it was for the creator, and I know that was a double bill that sold itself. So, to set the scene, a while after the events of 2, we find ourselves away from Africa and on the island of Sicily, Italy. An older man arrives with his grandson at a winery to discover all his henchmen are dead outside. Walking through the Carnegie down into the heart of it, we find one personal underguard, but that one person is Robert McCall, played by Denzel Washington, and a couple of guns will not stop him. Okay, a rifle to the back might, but when he is found by a local carabiner Gio Bonsi after feeling unconscious behind the wheel and saved from bleeding out by local doctor Anzo Aricio. Robert takes a liking to the town and thinks he is where he could find some peace, and that was the wrong time for the mafia to try and muscle their way into the town. I think where Equalizer 3 Excel is in its don't tell show form of filmmaking. If you had never watched a single Equalizer film before now, you would know what type of man Robert is before he even comes into the frame. The slow walk through the country house as Carnegie littered the kitchen and hallways is more revealing than if we had watched the sequence play out itself. The reverse is true when he ends up in Altamonte and we get my first experience with a friendship montage where the two friends are a character and the whole town, but you find you kind of just vibe with it, and that's nice. From a visual perspective, this is an absolutely stunning film. The Amalfi coastline in such a beautiful place in Italy, and this film makes the most of every frame. I mean, this is probably just targeted at my romantic heart, but goodness, would I want to live in one of those houses looking over the Mediterranean, sipping tea in my flower garden. Oh wait, I have digressed. The action sequences are all well shot. I like how they would backlight Denzel in the smoke mirrors and focus on mirable statues, leaning into the almost mythical status like an entity similar to a region that you never want to cross. From a narrative perspective, I like that they talk about the consequences of it all. At one point, Robert tells that mafia to their faces that they just go unlucky with their timing and they been there a couple of weeks early, they could have gotten away with it. Is there not a lot of depth going on here? Mafia comes into a time, the mafia finds out that this is a bad idea, and then the mafia decides not to learn the lesson they have been taught. You care because the film does a good job connecting you with the town and its people. There is a subplot with Emma Collins and Frank Conroy, but beyond some banter, you could have removed it from the film and nothing would have been lost. Also, the wider plot does start to lean into the silliness of Scario Day of the Soldado at times. Thought Dakota is making the most of every moment she is on screen. In the end, do we recommend The Equalizer 3? Yes, we will. It is not doing anything revolutionary, but the setting, solid action scene, strong supporting cast, and Denzel Washington's charisma make it an entertaining watch. If you like The Equalizer 3, we would recommend to you Nobody. By Brian McNamara, you can check out. If an actor's career can be said to obey the same laws that govern physics, then Denzel Washington stands in the third big screen Equalizer reboot, the Equalizer, represent the corresponding opposite, reacting to his lost role as a Lord Backpath for Joel Keane. Washington brought a frailty and introspection to the Tench of Cawdor, played as a greying lion rent with insecurities giving way to a corrosive bloodlust. As Robert McCall, the erstwhile Marine and intelligence agency accused cleaning up the streets in his retirement, Washington gets the chance to refute the idea that the savage passage of years must eat away at a man. Yoked with the same weight of pre-genetic target, he is now able to conquer it and win at life, his willingness to kill making him a hero rather than tragic figure. With a superhuman physical fitness allowing him to dominate tough a third of his age, a tactical, a comic creature, the illusion that he knows everything at all times, and a teasy little report with a decades younger waitress at his favorite cafe. He projects the picture of capability, age is just a number. In this case, dwarfed by his body count, as McCall spends a few scenes pointing about a cane following an injury sustained in the field. The anxiety of getting gold nips as this movie seals, but its pipe dream of overpowered obsolescence responds with AK-47 fire. Director Antoine Fuqua wants a little bit of the Shakespearean gravities from Washington, who conveys a clean understanding of his rudimentary character. He does bad things for good reasons, meting out punishment only to those who deserve it and feeling duly guilty for his dirty work afterwards. McCall has a conflicted relationship to violence, but his film does not. The big distinguishing factor in the final piece of a profitable trilogy, its merging firm up with generous product placement for American luxury car brands, its capability driven by Italians, its hysterical hunger for carnage in tons, fun and sickening, just a notch or two away from the high standard by the Universal Soldier Day of Reckoning. Fuqua and cinematographer Robert McCall go out of their way to show us the wanton gore after modulating a shot so that the camera can get the most unstructured view of ruptured arteries or thieves sticking out of face. In one moment suggesting a superior cut willing to go all in one mutilation, McCall coaches an enemy eyeball out, jams one barrel in the hall, and shoots another assailant through the skull. Don't worry, it's fine, they are all mafia. McCall lands in a postcard quality seaside town by the Sicilian shore after an assignment gone belly up, and takes it upon himself to park the area of the organized criminal, forcing everyone out to make room for developers. He finds his charming helmet worth fighting for, with its simple, poor-hearted residents seemingly plucked from the rose-housed romanticism of cinema prezzo. It's an unmistakably American version of Italian country life, all flattering ad salesmen and convivial fishmongers and religious paraders. The eccentric 1,000-year-old church setting atop a hill, the climb to which becomes a lumbering metaphor of perseverance and progress, also introduce the Catholic inquiry that will be learned on and in climax posturing towards contemplation of sin. Ultimately, the films adopt a you gonna do position on the matter. McCall gives and gets a hand from a CIA Rocky. Her chemistry with Washington not so changed since then Man on Fire in 2004, who asked how he picked her for an operative while dressed exactly like Jessica Christian in Zero Dark Thursday. The script contained a lot of boneheadedness along those lines, only some of it's amusing. One cannot help but smack their gums as a target of La Cosa Nostra says into her phone that she'll call right back as soon as she gets into her car. But talks of enemies Middle East terrorist peddling a jihad drug optimine leaves a sour taste and hints at the deeper vein of conservatism constant in series of all about enforcing order by any means necessary. For R. McCall's priority, his old-fashioned values of neatness and politeness always triumph over the impurities of the younger generation, humbled by a schooling at the growth-wielding hands of their elder. When he takes a break from glowering, Washington appears to be having a good time with the occasional wisecrack, as well he should. His Sony subsidized European vacation double as good PR, framing him as a movie star at the top of his game even as he waits through a forgettable port bowler. Like McCall, he knows his tool and arsenal not of guns and blades but of withering stars and crumpled smiles, yet almost enough to outshine everything else. Viewers of the certain age will recall the regular 1980 TV series starring Edward Woodward, upon which this is loosely based. Loosely is the keyword here, as the Equalizer 3 bears little resemblance to the source material. Mind you, neither did the previous film. I enjoyed the first, can barely remember the second, and this one, well, it's the usual ultra-violent nonsense, this time set against some splendid Italian and Sicilian scenery with the ever-dependable Denzel Washington remaining the main reason to subject ourselves to the Cecilia Eden meme. The cloth is something and fast in the entry, particularly the one the postal mafia villain drops. These ready resemble lives in the apartment village filled with Roman statues. Denzel Washington could continually be chassis as a pre-side actor with his lengthy resume of award-winning films. Washington brings a smooth, ever-charming presence to any role he takes on, and was certainly he case back in 2014 when he took the role of Robert McCall in The Equalizer, a by the number value-jetty movie that 100% thrive on the stock but commanding performances from Washington. Fast forward 9 years and we find the legendary Denzel Washington completing an unsuspecting trilogy with The Equalizer 3, once again directed by Antoine Fuqua. After the buffet of one-man army killing the first two films delivered, Part 3 sees Washington's Robert McCall attempting to escape the violence of this past in a quiet town in southern Italy. McCall, for the first time in years, feels at peace. He feels at home and welcomed by the local townfolk, which is why he feels compelled to do what he does best when his new friends and the town he calls home needs protecting from a sadist mafia capo and his crew. So as you can see, the third entry follows that similar path of the past action hero wanting to hang up his weapons to live a peaceful life, and The Equalizer 3 does hover extremely close to the standard plot beats for his Part 3 formula. From McCall desires to retire to the procedural correction of sporting characters to the plug-and-play villains and their routine motivation, it's all stuff we have seen many times, and it was a bit disappointing to the movie. So, 3 films in, we know what to expect from an installment in the Equalizer franchise. Our hero will dispatch the bad guys in absurdly violent fashion, but only after warning them that he doesn't want to kill everyone. The violent nature of the trilogy has never been hidden, as this had more in common with the Taken series that the television shows based on, but it becomes even more pronounced here. A new location and some repeated religious iconography is just window dressing. That flick is more of the same, just with diminishing returns. The Equalizer 3 is overly familiar and tired despite a committed Denzel Washington. There's also focus on hyper-violence that, while stylish and occasionally morbidly funny, is at odds with the story that the film is trying to tell. The series has always been gory, but while The Equalizer did it well, with The Equalizer 2 falling a bit short, continues the downward trajectory. Luckily, it appears to be ending with the trilogy. I enjoyed the first one, but the franchise has run its course. Robert McCall, Washington, has given up his violent past, though he still seems to be doing the odd job here or there. We meet him once again while in Italy, laying waste to some folks in a shadowed vineyard. Wounded as he leaves, he is found by a friendly police officer and brought to a small town doctor. Patched up but needing to heal, McCall spends time adjusting to this quieter life, finding it to his liking. In short order, the town has essentially adopted him, as they are all impossibly nice people and see the good in him, ignoring what he may have done previously. Accomplices to the lives he is grown to love in the town, McCall is going to have to get violent once again if he is to save them. You see, the mafia has decided that this is where they want to take over. Normally, nothing would stand in their way. Of course, they didn't count on them. Soon, mob boss Vincent Quanta wants McCall dead. He clearly does know who he is up against. While that vendetta is brewing, government agent Emma Collins is snooping around, trapped by McCall about some illegal drugs, but curious about who he is. It's all eventually comes together, thought in a completely predictable manners. Denzel Washington treats with this pretty seriously, arguably more seriously than the material deserves. He is comfortable with the character being older and wounded for part of the film, which is an interesting change of pace. Of course, once the killing starts, he is a superhero able to do anything and everything the movie requires. It doesn't ask much of him, but Washington candidly doesn't phone the role in. Andrew Sardizo is a one-note villain, while Dakota Fanning is mostly watched. Supporting players include the aforementioned Remy Gron as well as Figino Mostrandia alongside David Dinman, Andrea Tantido, Daniel Prawn, Gia Scartlow, and more. Director Antoine Fuqua cannot resist going over the top here. The writer Richard Wing is along for the ride as well. Fuqua and Wing want this to be an examination of peace, but fill it with such violence that the massage never fits comfortably. Wang's spread is too thin when it comes to the character, too jumped when it comes to reason why anything happens, and not really concerned enough with doing anything new. Fuqua has a comfort with Denzel Washington, but despite some interesting cinematography from Robert Richardson, does nothing new here. McCall is a killing machine, glitch and all, rinse and repeat. The Equalizer 3 brings this series to an end with a continued mixed bags. Depending on how much you have liked the previous two films, that will play a lot into how much you like this one. The movie is too violent and too thinly drawn, but there is a satisfying lizard brain element to it all, so it's far from a bad flick, but one that kept me a few steps away from offering up you a recommendation. The box office performance of the movie. The Equalizer 3 starring Denzel Washington has accumulated $182.6 million worldwide after being in theater for nearly 2 months. The film's overall domestic income is now $91.5 million, while internationally the film has grossed $91.5 million. This weekend, the sequel grossed an additional $2.6 million overseas while playing on over 37,000 screens across 50 markets. On Friday, October 20, The Equalizer 3 came in at number 11 at the domestic box office, the same spot as nabbed the week period with a gross of $1,040,000 at the end of the business day. The Equalizer 3 surpasses both Barbie and Oppenheimer, which came in at number 13 and number 14 respectively at the domestic box office this Friday. This comes after a stellar debut during Labor Day weekend, where The Equalizer 3 came in at number 1 with $42 million. The Equalizer 3 is performing impressively when you consider the fact it's been out for almost 2 months and is already available on digital. However, the box office crown goes to Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour, which is still holding on to the number 1 spot, pulling in $10.4 million domestically on Friday alone. Martin Scott's Killer of the Flower Moon debuted at number 2, pulling it over $9 million on its first day in theater. Who stars in The Equalizer 3? The Equalizer 3 follows Washington Robert McCall as he tries to protect his newfound chosen family in southern Italy from mafia bosses. The film is directed by Antoine Fuqua from a script by Richard Wing. In addition to Washington, the sequel stars Dakota Fanning, Agina Mastrinda, and David Dinman. The Equalizer 3 has a reported budget of $70 million, making the movie fairly profitable. The film is rated R for strong bloody violence and some language and clock in at an hour and 49 minutes. The first film in the franchise was released in 2014, while a sequel, The Equalizer 2, was released in 2018. The Equalizer film franchise is based on the famed series from the 80s of the same name, created by Michael Sloan and Richard Linden. The Equalizer 3 knocked down new global box office benchmark. Sony's The Equalizer 3 came out all guns blazing over the Labor Day weekend and has been able to deliver the good during a rather tough phase at the box office. On its 27th day in theater across the world, the action film passed the $150 million mark at the global box office, putting it closer to its two preceders, with accidentally conclude their domestic and worldwide runs with near identical totals. This means that $1 million here or there could either make The Equalizer 3 the highest grossing movie of the trilogy or the lowest grossing one. As things stand, the film has earned around $83 million domestically and another $67 million from overseas market for a global total of just over $150 million. The film's biggest foreign market are the UK $9 million, Australia $5.5 million, Spain $4 million, the Netherlands $2.6 million, and Italy $1.9 million. The Equalizer 3 experienced a bit of a stumble in its second weekend but has since been able to stabilize itself. By comparison, 2014's The Equalizer grossed $101 million domestically and $192 million worldwide, while The Equalizer 2, released 4 years later, concludes its domestic run with $102 million and grossed $191 million globally. Each of the three films in the series has been directed by Antoine Fuqua and stars Denzel Washington. The duo most famously collaborated on 2001 Training Day, which earned Washington his second acting Oscar. The movie provided some hope in a disappointing September. The Equalizer movies, which are loosely based on the 80s television series of the same name, established Washington as an older action star after a career dominated mostly by dramatic roles. It's similar to how the Taken trilogy gave Liam Neeson's career a new lease on life in the late 2000s. Over the past decade or so, Washington has quietly proven himself to be among the last dominating American movie stars, someone who is capable of opening a film despite not being allowed to promote it. The Equalizer 3, released amid the VGA and SAG extra strikes during talent was forbidden from engaging in promotional activities. The period caused millions in losses for studios and artists and also resulted in the delays of several high-profile fall releases. Overall, the month of September was a noticeable letdown from the record highs of the summer movie season, but The Equalizer 3 and The Nun 2 kept the ticket counter striking. This weekend we will see the release of another franchise sequel, Saw X, which is expected to duke it out for the top spot with the original science fiction film The Creator, earning the best reviews of the trilogy and a K from Collider's Nate Richard. The Equalizer 3 also stars Dakota Fanning, David Denman, Sonia Marr, and Remy Grant in supporting roles. The Equalizer 3 has just passed a significant milestone at the global box office following its second weekend in theaters. Directed once again by Antoine Fuqua, the third film in the hit franchise sees Denzel Washington returns as retired government assassin Robert McCall. The new movie, which serves as Washington's last as the character, features McCall facing off against the mafia in southern Italy in order to protect people he cares about. Now, per the numbers, The Equalizer 3's box office has grossed $100 million worldwide in its second weekend, with a total global haul of $107.6 million. This total comprised $61.8 million domestically and $45.8 million from international territories. The crossing of this new milestone is despite a somewhat disappointing 65% drop in its second weekend, with 218's The Equalizer 2 by comparison featuring at 61% drop. How much does The Equalizer 3 needs to be successful? The first film in Fuqua's trilogy ended its run with $192.9 million earned worldwide, and the second was not far behind at just over 190.3 million dollar. Considering the film's budget were $55 million and $77 million respectively, both represented success for Sony Pictures. The Equalizer 3's budget is estimated to be round about $70 million, which puts its threshold for success lower than its producers. A general rule of thumb is that after theater cuts, back-end points, and marketing costs are factored in, a movie generally needs to make around twice its budget back before it becomes profitable. The Equalizer 3 then needs to earn around $140 million to break even, but this number could be higher or lower depending on a number of factors. It's still early days, but considering its performances thus far, Fuqua's latest sequel is very likely to be a success of Sony. The Equalizer 3's Rotten Tomato audience score as of this writing sits at an impressive 94%, meaning, like its producers, the film has been popular with audience. It remains to be seen whether the Equalizer 3's total box office will end up around the first two, but next weekend's performance will be a strong indicator as to how well the film will hold up over the next few weeks. Pretty straightforward end of the summer with Sony Eagle Pictures' escape artist. The Equalizer 3 is still on track for a $42 million plus 4-day opening, second best ever of the holiday after Shang-Chi $94 million. No melodrama like last weekend when Sony was stuffing substantial advance preview into Friday and driving Warner Bros. Crazy. Boy, that was fun. However, expect other studios to emulate a practice like that again, not that it was extremely novel. Sony will have another Labor Day opening record for the books next year when they finally debuted their Venomverse title, Kraven the Hunter, which was officially scheduled to debut this year during the first weekend of October. While there will be business today for movies, it will fall off by around 30% from Sunday's take-off for most movies. Sunday was pretty good, with most movies seeing single-digit % spikes over Saturday or even results. There seems to be little fight for 7th place, with MGM's Bottom and Warner Bros. The Make 2 both claiming $3.65 million. Despite the ongoing SAG after strike and actors unable to promote, look for this box office rally to continue into next weekend with The Nun 2, which is eyeing at $30 million plus opening. Warner Bros. Typically has had a big horror film in the past Labor Day space, the last being 2019 IT Chapter 2 with debut to $91 million. They had James Wan's Millicent in 2001, but the pick got lost at the box office as it was day and day in theater, and an HBO Max opening to plotly $5.4 million. The Equalizer 3 beats Blue Beetle in $150 million box office race. Sony Picture action-packed sequel, The Equalizer 3 has achieved a significant mark at an otherwise slow global box office. The film connected 4,040,000 at the North American box office on its fourth Wednesday, crossing the $150 million threshold in worldwide earnings, placing it in close competition with its producers, which concluded their runs with remarkably similar earnings. Accidentally, the film has also left behind the DC Comics adaptation Blue Beetle, which is sitting at $125 million and is unlikely to reach the pivotal mark. The Equalizer 3 had stormed into theater over the Labor Day weekend, overcoming the challenges faced by the box office during this phase. As it stands, the film has amassed around $43 million domestically and an additional $67 million from international markets, which conclude the UK with $9 million, Australia with $5.5, Spain with $4, the Netherlands with $2.6 million, and Italy with $1.9 million. The Equalizer 3 faced a minor setback in its second weekend but swiftly regained its momentum. Made on a budget of $70 million, the film also broke even and is headed to earn a decent profit. In comparison, the first Equalizer film had grossed $101 million domestically and $192 million worldwide in 2014, while its 2018 sequel The Equalizer 2 closed its run with identical totals of $102 million and $191 million respectively, led by Denzel Washington, who once again proved his status as an action superstar. The Equalizer trilogy is often compared with Liam Neeson's old school Taken trilogy. All three films in the series are directed by Antoine Fuqua, who also directed 2001 Training Day, which earned Washington his second Academy Award. McCall was who helmed The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and The Courts of La Llorona, takes over the sequel from Corin Hardy, who directed the first. Tessa Firming returned as Sister Irina, with Storm Reid joining as a young nun at the score of with the Demon Mother Superior, also back in Junius Beckett as Marine, who left the nun with a back on Thea. Equalizer 3 Sony Friday $13.1 million, Saturday $11 million, Sunday $10.5 million, and the next day is $1.5 million. The Equalizer 3 will hit $42 million over 4 days, easily the second best opening of Labor Day weekend ever, following 2021's Shang-Chi, which did $94.6 million. 3 day is $34.5 million or $2.6 million Patron, which is the third best domestic opening for filmmaker Antoine Fuqua after Equalizer 2 and The Magnificent Seven, and the second best star of the franchise Friday as 13.1, including Thursday previews, which is jacking up forecast for the weekend. Equalizer 3 is the confidence by TSG and Eagle Pictures. As Comscore predicted, the summer global box office has clicked past $4 billion, a normal threshold in any summer, but the first post-pandemic, thank you, Barbenheimer. The other things to apart with the threequel in that quite often these guys with a gun movies become diluted at the box office. Garner Butler a name distance fire with distributed getting by a low P&S and accomplished cast. Sony and Escape Artists have finally developed this Denzel Washington series with great care and kept the pot dry, and the ticket sales are showing that the series in Washington's only film franchise on this resume. It's not about shoots, aim-ups and Equalizer movie, rather the anxiety of the character Robert McCall, who the 2x Oscar-winning adores playing. The full cast and crew of the movie The Equalizer 3. The movie is directed by Antoine Fuqua. Writing credit goes to Richard Wink, Michael Sloan, Richard Lindame. Cast: Denzel Washington as Robert McCall, Dakota Fanning as Emma Collins, Iguna Mastindria as Georgia Bonucci, David Denman as Frank Conray, Gia Scalaro as Amina, Remo Groni as Dr. Enzo, Adria Scardizo as Vincent Coranta, Andia Totero as Marco Quenta, Daniel Prone as Angelo, Zakaria Hamza as Khalid, Minola Tesquito as Camrela, Dia Lanzaro as Gabriela, Sonia Amar as Chaira Panucci, Alessandro Pace as Viking, Nicola Fava as Marco Stug, Alexandro as Marco Stug, Adolfo Milota as Chief Brela, Nicola Soni as Stefano, Bruno Bilota as Lorenzo Vitale, Adriano Sapri as Vitale's grandson, Valero Di Silva as Sicilian investigator. Giapiero Ritoli as Bretla lieutenant. Isabella del Monac as Tratlia server. Salvatore Rocco as Vincent Mann. Daniel Ornatelli as new reporter. Ligue Catani as teen tug. Giovanni Tomita as Hartman at Vandry. Gioli Sicilia as Hartman at Vandry. Marta Zeffoli as teacher. The movie is produced by Tarek bin Ammar as executive producer, Todd Black as producer, David Blomfield as executive producer, Jason Blomithal as producer, Vito Clezo as line producer, Tony Baltrig as producer, Antoine Fuqua as producer, Andy Mitchell as executive producer, Smear M. Patel as executive producer, Goja Kuranta as associate producer, Kat Samik as executive producer, Alex Siskin as producer, Enzo Sisti as executive producer, Steve Tisk as producer, Clayton Townsend as producer, Denzel Washington as producer, Richard Wink as co-producer. Music by Marcelo Zervos. Cinematography by Robert Richardson. Editing by Conrad Puff Ivy. Casting by Barbara Giordani, Lancy Graham, Marisco Vidovati, Mary Verno. Production design by Nomi Chauhan. Art direction by Vary Sessoni, Assistant Art Director, Silvia Clofesenti, Junior Art Director, Leonardo Grillo, Junior Art Director, Gianpolo Refino, Supervising Art Director, Saviro Smali, Senior Art Director, Basit Siciliano, Art Direction. Set direction by Chiara Belducci. Costume design by Giovanni Calsavado. Makeup department by Calcira Antinori, makeup artist. Silvia Castellocchi, key makeup artist. Larry M. Cherry, hair stylish. Marilla Conti, key hair stylish. Dalia Del Gubo, makeup artist. Adrian Demas, key special effect artist. Carl Fullerton, makeup artist. Francesca Aimando, hair supervisor. Nicola Mariano, hair stylish. Luca Mirzoccoli, personal makeup artist. Federico Moniconi, key makeup artist. Maurizio Nerti, makeup designer. Stefania Santivel, makeup crowd supervisor. Domingo Santoro, hair designer. Francisco Scalera, hair stylish. Marica Bianco, additional makeup artist. Rusa Falco, additional makeup artist. Delna Nicole, additional makeup artist. Production management. Franska Boy as unit manager. Tommaso Crangnani as production assistants. Cristiana Di Rossi as production manager. Steve Demko as post-production executive. Leonardo Peppa as assistant unit manager. Leonardo Pepuni as unit manager. Massi Milano Sisti as unit production manager. Clayton Townsend as unit production manager. Set unit director or assistant director. Petro Belloni as assistant director. Valentina De Casson as second assistant director. Lorenzo Di Nicola as fourth assistant director. Andrea Flaherty as additional third assistant director. Chiara Ferrosi as crowd second assistant director. Lorenzo Grasso as first assistant director. Stewart Hamilton as first assistant director. Gulka La Russa as floor second assistant director. Barbara Petrovich as key second assistant director. And Gisa Zenoso as base production assistants. Art department. Filippo Angeloci as art department coordinator. Zara Alessandro set dresser. Roberto Benetti on set dresser. Gossip Kufenga as painter foreman. Adriana Custado as set designer, Chiara Cecil as painter, Christina Cecil as head painter, Dylan Coburn as storyboard artist, Natalie Tenelova as satirist artist, Fisto Di Rossi as concept artist, Carmela Exposito as assistant graphic designer, Fausta Langon as art depth coordinate assistants. Now let's talk about the ending of the movie The Equalizer 3. Antoine Fuqua's vigilant action thrill The Equalizer 3 has finally debuted on Netflix. The Equalizer 3 ending explained. The Equalizer 3 ending closed on an interesting note for Denzel Washington's McCall, which appears to be the final chapter for his take on the character. The third Equalizer opened with former DIA officer Robert McCall being wounded after wiping out a Sicilian mob case. He is soon taken in by the locals at a seaside village called Altamonte, who come to treat him as one of their own while he recovers. Unfortunately, the village locals are being threatened by mafia outfit the Camaro. After they push the violence too far, McCall is forced to push back with equal effect. A subplot also sees McCall adding CIA agent Emma Collins, giving her information about designer trucks that were being shipped from the mob base he raided. It turns out the Camaro themselves are in league with terrorists, and after McCall kills the brother of mafia thief Vincent, the two men are set for a final showdown. In the end, McCall kills Vincent and his men in a violent home invasion, and injured Collins gets a promotion, and McCall appears to have fairly found peace as he decided to stay in the village. Does Robert McCall die in The Equalizer 3? Denzel Washington's character is put in harm's way throughout the entire action movie. The Robert McCall does not die in The Equalizer 3 by the time the credit rolls. The movie initially looked like this could be a possibility by having him be shot in the back after the opening sequence, which leaves his health in a critical state. It is only after being operated on by a local that McCall proves to be stable. The film ultimately elects to leave Washington's hero alive to give him a happy ending, or leave the door open for a sequel instead of counting him among everyone who dies in The Equalizer 3. Is Denzel Washington Robert McCall really retired? A big theme of The Equalizer 3 is the idea that people end up there they are supposed to be, and by the end of the third entry, McCall appears to have found where he belongs. The sequel represents a darker take on the character, who is seemingly still reeling from the death of best friend Susan during the second film and his betrayal by former colleagues. McCall is more sadistic and brutal in the way he dispatches few and seems intent on inflicting pain first. However, he finds his humanity once again when the villagers take him in and treats him with kindness. After killing Vincent, he heads back to Almonte and is last seen beaming as he takes part in a village celebration. Having just gifted his black book to Collins, it appears McCall has truly given up the vigilante life. The Equalizer 3's ending gives no hint of a further sequel, and if it is truly in the last installment, it's a nice note to leave the character on. Why McCall commented the Equalizer 3 opening may scare. The opening of the threequel feels like something of a slasher film, as a mob boss comes home to his vineyard and discovers the bodies of his men littering him home. His remaining henchmen confront McCall in a cellar, but of course the latter easily comes out on top and kills them all. Before this, McCall hits the reason he is there in because they took something that did not belong to them, and afterward he's seen with the mystery backpack. It's only in the final scene that he reveals to Collins what's inside. McCall explained that this mob stronghold also took part in cybercrime and that they stole the pension of a retired man in Boston. McCall gave the pension guy, Drake there, a ride in a light on time, a knob in his Equalizer 2 sidekick, and he came to Italy with the sole intent of giving the man his 3,060,000 back. Colin doesn't understand why McCall go to such length to help a total stranger, but when she later hands over the bag and watches the joy he recovers money brings to the man and his wife, he gets it. What the Chamorro want with the village. The Equalizer 3 doesn't give much depth to its antagonists, who are depicted as almost cartoonish evil. Their various crimes include hanging an old man from a window and later cutting off the hand of a subordinate. They collect protection money from many of the stores in Altamonte, but Vincent has larger plans in mind for this little paradise. He wants to build resorts and casinos for tourists, and that will involve pushing the population out, given the kindness with which he is being treated by the people. McCall makes it clear that it is not going to happen. The jihad truck explained. Another major subplot in Equalizer 3 involves Colin looking into shipments of drugs that were being sent from inside wine bottles at the vineyard McCall raided. This is an empty mine dubbed the jihad drug, which is being sold by Syrian terrorists to fund their activities. Of course, it turns out the camera is buying the drug and thus directly funding terrorism, which is why McCall gets the CIA involved. McCall gives Ventus a taste of his own medicine in the ending and forces him a fatal dose of these pills. He then walks with the fleeing Camaro thief into the village and waits until he dies from his overdose. Collins is Susan's plumber's daughter. Another lightning mystery running throughout the film is why McCall is helping a random CIA agent. He and Collins form a nice bond, but he always avoids answering why he contracted her. The final scene in Collins' office following her recovery from a car bomb planted by the Camorra that nearly killed her answered this question. She finds that McCall has gifted her his black book with a message stating her mother would be proud. Colin then looks at a graduation picture on her desk, revealing she is the daughter of McCall's old friends Susan and Brian. In acting as something of a mentor to Collins and then imparting his little book of names and secrets, he is setting her on a path towards becoming a great agent like Susan was. It's another sign that McCall himself is ready to hang up his equalizing base and retire too. What director Antoine Fuqua has said about the Equalizer 3's ending and Robert McCall's fate. The third film in the Equalizer series is being tapped as the final outing for both Washington and Fuqua. Denzel Washington said that the Equalizer 4 could happen, but it would have to be without him. But while the actor has indicated that a fourth movie with a new actor is on the table, Fuqua's comments indicate otherwise. According to the director, Fuqua is open to directing the Equalizer 4, but he too will walk away from the franchise if Washington is not on board. With Fuqua's return to the director's chair being dependent on Washington's return, a fourth installment is looking increasingly unlikely. Will the Equalizer 4 happen? How a sequel can work? Director Antoine Fuqua previously entertained the notion of Equalizer 4 could feature a directly D.H. McCall even starred Denzel's son, John David. The former option seems to have been ruled out by Washington, and the latter scenario, while technically possible, probably will not occur either unless Fuqua changes his mind. In the event that Washington and Fuqua do re-team for a fourth film, it would be relatively easy for the story to continue. While some theorize that the third outing would see McCall himself die, this is not the case. Instead, the sequel ends with McCall finding some inner peace. The Equalizer 3 very much serves as an ending, but it does not negate a fourth entry at all. Another sequel could simply pick up with McCall on another mission of vengeance and simply explain that retirement didn't suit him. Now that Collins has been established as his new ally, She could also come to him for help on an operation that needs the conventional method. Of course, heading in that direction could risk the Equalizer 4 having to repeat the Equalizer 3 ending by retired Mikhail yet again. The Equalizer 3 ending explain, does Mikhail finally find peace? The Equalizer 3 has one of the most underrated action film franchise in recent years. So let's explain the Equalizer 3's bloody ending. One of the things fans have been intrigued by with Antoine Fuqua's The Equalizer 3 is how the director intended to wrap this franchise up. Denzel Washington has rebooted the story of the former Marine Robert McCall in a truly brutal manner. However, his latest journey to Europe has been deemed his final hurrah. But maybe that's just what Fuqua would like fans to believe. That's because as long as the film makes money and the hero survives, this might not be Equalizer's final entry. And make no mistake, as Robert takes on the Italian mafia in his signature crimson fashion, there are many close calls that almost take his life. However, as much as the final brings closure, there is a door left ajar for more Equalizer. The Equalizer 3 takes out the mafia in El Monto. The story finds Robert visiting Cecily to kill Fox at a winery in a series of every personal action scenes. He ends up getting shot after taking some money from the establishment recovered to be a frog font. Robert recovers his El Monte right after contemplating ending his life like in the first movie. Sadly, he realized this place he's come to love as home after recopting for a month is under attack from a gang. The Kimura Mafia is escorting businessmen, and as time involves, they want to force people out and extend commercial operation. To make matters worse, they are dealing in weapons, drugs, and any other nefarious things they can get their hands on. The story leads to Robert working with a CIA analyst, Emma Collins, who finds him after he tripped her off about the winery. He uses her intelligence and begins another vigilante campaign. The movie concludes with Robert slaughtering the goons and drugging their boss, Vincent. The man ends up stumbling into the street, getting knocked over and dying. The Robert, its sweet karma, and as all the people that suffered under Vincent's torture, Ryan get to see him dead. The Equalizer 3 makes Emma a key partner. Now fans were excited to see Fanning reunite with Washington after Man on Fire, and make no mistake, there's a nuance to their bond. They don't get to spend much time cultivating a personal father-daughter bond like Man on Fire, but they are integral to each other's survival. Emma feeds Robert intel while he saves her from a bombing after the mafia target her. It's unknown why he gravitates to her after then needing an ally, but clearly there's something special he's hiding. The final has him visiting her to let him know she has done well. When she gets back to the office, he leaves her his black book with a ton of data and past missions. Robert also leaves a note that her mom would be proud. It turns out that Emma's the daughter of Susan Plumber, one of Robert's former colleague and a person he considered a sister. He had to save her husband, Brian, in the second film during an attack that claimed Susan's life. Thus, it brings Robert's and Emma's story full circle. He wants her to use the Italian job to gain promotion. As he knows she is a good person from an exceptional family, he does just that. Grateful that she has a friend like Robert lurking in the shadows, it teases maybe Equalizer 4 could have them as a dynamic to earn more jobs. Alternatively, Fuqua could look at Denzel's son, John David Washington, for a prequel that shows more of Robert's past relationships. The Equalizer 3 is the perfect ending. However, Equalizer 3 is the ideal way to end the story. Robert closes the movie by celebrating with the town after a football game. These are people who will keep his secret and the tribe he's thought for so long. He is welcomed there, loved the food and art, and even sparked something with a waitress Amina. He's been through a lot, so it's time to let his trauma rest and give him a happy ending. What's worth nothing is that he is a good guy who deserves the best. He is often wrestled with this after his days in the Marines, but Emma can testify as he confirms the money he took from the Venry was cash stolen from a man there in Equalizer 2. Fans will remember Robert, while working as a cab driver, found a door got the entire pension stolen online. A plot thread that was not picked up, well, it is now as the Italian hack the dares, and it's why the vigilante ends up the Venry to recover their money. Emma returns to the US and disperses the funds of the records. She cannot reveal who got the money back but is bummed to see the dares made whole again. To that point, that's who Robert is, a man about second chances and who has redeemed himself. Ultimately, it's why he is best set in Italy, living out his untormented in a bubbly of life, love and a culture that he wants to call his own. It is idealistic. Sure it is, but Robert has more than paid off his debt. The only red in his ledger is now the blood of criminals, but life is done now. Tha. Emma knows that he belongs in a region of peace after his own government weaponized him and unleashed him as a tool for war. It's what her mom would want. Clearly, Emma's proud of Robert, the same way Susan would be, and it is glad knowing Robert can finally walk away, rest and enjoy a whole new world in Altamonte. The original 1985 TV series The Equalizer, starring Edward Woodward, was part of a notable trend in the television from the 70s and 80s. Multiple shows at the time was about dangerous, mysterious, lawless drifters who travel from town to town seeking logistics and applying violence there it might be needed. The trend includes shows like Kung Fu, The Game Person, The A-Team, The Incredible Hulk, and A Little Like Renegade. Robert McCall was an ex-military man who had a talent for finding people in distress and helping them violently as the situation required. In 2014, filmmaker Antoine Fuqua adapted The Equalizer to the big screen, casting Denzel Washington in the role of Robert McCall. In the movie, McCall was steelier, more stone-faced and more serious. He was adept at violence action and motivated by an unflagging sense of righteousness. He was the bully's willing to outshoot any bad guy who was taking advantage of those weaker than him. The film was enough of a hit to warrant two sequels, with The Equalizer 3 opening to all audiences on September 1, 2023. As the beginning of part 3, McCall gets a shot in the back. He'll spend the bulk of the film recovering, and it's during his recovery that the real theme of The Equalizer 3 will come to light and the arc of McCall will become clear. All the killer ever wanted was peace. Catching up with The Equalizer 2 first. So, it was in The Equalizer 2 that McCall's true calling come to light. He was a vigilante, yes, but more than anything, he fought for justice in his community. He was handy with gun and eager to murder mob bosses, but he also cleaned crafty of his tentmen and encouraged a local at-risk youth to read to Sidney Coster. McCall was a drifting murderer but also freelance civis planner. He didn't kill because he had an itchy trigger finger and an impulse towards death. He killed those who prevented the world from being a peaceful place. Because McCall is played by Denzel Washington, perhaps the best actor of his generation, audience can appreciate him as a force for righteousness and not just some ultra-cool murderous blowhard like most action heroes. McCall doesn't care about being cool, he cares about, well, equitable justice. What he seeks, then, is a community that violence cannot infiltrate. He seeks place. In The Equalizer 3, McCall finds himself in Sicily, taking out some sort of local drug lord. It is when he is exiting a building full of cops that McCall will be shot. He is taken to the local doctor and allowed to crash at his house, no questions asked. Using a cane and moving slowly, McCall begins to explore the small, peaceful helmet and finds life to be simple, quiet, and kind. The food is amazing, and the tea is superb. He even may have a potential love interest in the form of waitress Amina. This we can see on McCall's face might be where he needs to be. When the local mafia begins stirring up trouble, there's more at stake than merely shooting bad guys, there's a retirement to protect. Washington is 68 years old and McCall is not the type of superhero to keep fighting until he is inevitably killed. He clearly wants a peaceful community that he can rest in as he grows old. This small Sicilian village is his home. The local embrace Roberto, their new transplant, but the mafia has other plans. They want to buy out local business by violence force so that they can transform for part of this island into casinos and resorts. When the evil Vincent begins roughing by the local policeman and burning down the fishmonger's shop, McCall has no choice but to strike back. When he wounds Seals, McCall proceeds to waste all the mob guys who wander into the field of version. McCall speaks out loud about what he wants to do. Retired peacefully, he even notes that Sicily is the only place he's ever felt that he could be peaceful. Killing the mob guys in his final act of violent ruthlessness before he can settle into a life of seaside bliss. The motivation to retire makes McCall far more interesting than most superheroes. Because superhero stories tend to extend indefinitely, no hero is permitted to have a third act. They must fight and fight and fight for bang the point when vigilante justice feels like a healthy lifestyle. Most superheroes have no ultimate goal in mind other than to punch criminals or kill invading aliens. So long as there is a steady stream of villains, the fighting will continue. The world is never improved and a superhero soon only knows how to be violent. So, the Equalizer 3, McCall completely knows how to be violent, but he's human too, and human wants to achieve their goals for retiring peacefully. The Equalizer 3 permits that much. Another jungle might be even larger and more profound. However, McCall is more or less a superhero, and superheroes, as mentioned, are rarely permitted to retire. Being a superhero means a lifelong commitment to being a member of a freelance military that deals with all problems by punching, kicking, shooting, or firing laser blast. If a superhero does have an end game, it's to rid the world of all evil, right? To capture so many criminals and murder so many marauding aliens that the tide will eventually ebb. Somebody is a hero's idea world. Crime will be at an end and utopia will have been reached. Perhaps in taking out two Italian crime syndicates over the course of one movie, McCall has finally equalized the world. Justice has been served. The Equalizer 3 is not merely an intimate story about McCall retiring and living in peace. Maybe his actions have finally actually provided world peace. It would be interesting to know if the rest of the world has now free of crime and vanished after McCall had spent so many years murdering bad guys. Vengeance is a thing of the past, drugs were all seized, and McCall can retire not merely to be peaceful village but to a peaceful planet.